Hi, everybody. Welcome to our crystal ball looking session, as Roman mentioned. I welcome the panelists also today and all of you to join the discussion as well. When we're talking about megatrends, we're particularly talking about trends that have a substantial impact, that's here to stay. And I think in the last 5 years, we've had quite a few trends that have all happened simultaneously. But that's not to say history doesn't have a pattern. It sort of likes to repeat itself. And in this crystal ball looking session, we will try to see what history has taught us and what the future is also going to look like. To start off with, I think for today's discussion, we'll focus primarily on one major mega trend that's mostly affecting the technology side. And from your roles as leaders in different organizations, where do you see the most impact this particular trend has had, and how has it changed the way or reprioritized things for your organization? Would you like to start, Nathan?
Hello, thank you, Niveda. And so my thoughts on this are around the data governance aspects that Mark and Magda talked about in the future. So as we get more and more connected agents, and as Adam talked about, that having that AI brain in the middle of the cycle there, then it's even more important that the AI or multiple agents are all talking about the same thing, that they mean what the scientist actually means it to be. So for me, it's around having even greater of that kind of foundational data governance layer.
Perfect. And you, from your role, Birgit?
Yes, I'm from the money side point of view as a managing director. So our decisions, what we make is we know that we have to automate, digitize as much as possible to keep our costs in mind. And this is how we consider it. Everything with data has a lot more emphasis than it had 5 years ago, and we have to discuss everything. Brings it us a benefit, an EBITDA, or doesn't it? That's how we make the decisions.
And Ercan?
I can continue here. I think for us is the workforce, because the technology is changing so rapidly, and to being up to date, to understand how to use the technology is challenging, because I have to admit our human brains are not that fast to add every new trend and new agents coming up. And if you have an organization like Roche with 100,000 employees, it's hard to keep them up.
So you're investing a lot in upskilling.
Upskilling is important to understand the technology, because if people know how to use it, because to say no, we cannot use it is quite not the right way to be innovative. So we have to find a balance between upscaling, but also giving the guardrails to understand how we can use that. Clinical data is a big topic. But it helps us also finally to clean up our data. So this is quite nice.
On my side, based on my experience, I have 30 years of experience in pharma, medtech, and biotech. I think that what Adam said and presented before is remark the concept different. So operating models. So what has been done until today, especially in the life science industry, was to keep stable, to make sure that safety of the patient is really the first point, and of course to develop a good drug. I think that the way of working, so operating model equal way of working, is really what should be the differentiator from one company versus the others, because I think that still there are companies stick in way, as Adam said, in a linear way. That should be not the way how AI will support you in the future. And there are other companies like Roche who already start to be more agile or use more agility, working in parallel, working as a single organization, or have attributes or other way of organization that enable the use of AI as a differentiator. So the way of working is really for me the differentiator, and of course the data is just simply the gasoline that will be used by the AI to support the growth of the company.
Absolutely. And I remember, Ercan, when we were talking about this earlier, you'd mentioned that the competition landscape also looks a bit different now. Could you highlight a little bit about why and how you see it?
I think the challenge is also that we are used to get one tool rolled out and then the whole company sticks for that for 1-2 years until it gets decommissioned and then we get something new. With AI, it's every 2 weeks, 3 weeks, something new. I mean, today I just saw that Google released something new for our workspace. And then again, we have to adapt. And that's also the mindset of the workforce, is that we cannot just stay there, do the upscaling on one tool, and then you know that is the tool forever. You have to change. You have to be more agile. You have to adapt your mindset. That it's more than Word these days. You have Copilot and everything around. So this is the biggest challenge for us. Because also when we like POCs, if we start an AI project, if it's longer than 6 months, it doesn't make sense.
Yep.
So technology will be already outdated. And then the investments and everything around this is crazy. And we also see, like, if we give scientists the tools, they build that by their own.
And how are you in your organizations adapting to this faster cycle time? Because earlier you roll out a tool, we had time to get trained, people trained on it and get them to use it. But now the turnover time is very quick. So what are you doing in your organizations to enable people to also change at that pace? Nathan, maybe you can start.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've got two kind of experiences. One is working in a large company for 15 years, and the other one is for the last sort of 6 months working in a startup. And so in the large company with AI coming along, then it was very much about IT coming in and saying, right, these are the guardrails, you can't use it, you can use it in this way, and sort of putting the brakes on the innovation and the tools. And so, but you know, the pockets of good were allowed, and it came through in a safe manner. And it's completely different in the startup world. You're all just sitting in the same room together, and there's lots and lots of trust between everybody. And so it's like, I'm going to try this, okay, and then we try something, and then the next day it's like, oh, that didn't work, let's move to this other tool. And it's much faster and much more iterative. But you're all on the same wavelength, and so you don't need the formalized guardrails, because you can respond really quickly.
Perfect. And Birgit?
For us, it's all about building trust for the colleagues. We're working in a highly regulated environment in GMP. Nevertheless, we have had to change continuously in a quite fast way. And our approach is to do all the changes, to introduce all the new things, to accept all the shitstorms that came along with it. That's quite normal. For people, it is difficult to adapt. And then to teach them that changes are coming, that they can trust, that nothing serious happens to them. And what we have experienced now is that they accept it, that we have an atmosphere of continuous change. And accept all the difficulties it brought in the beginning. Yeah.
That's perfect.
I can just say AI is not an industry hype. It's everywhere in the world. So it's not like we roll out SAP and no one cares outside of Roche. It's more like that the colleagues are also seeing it in the news. It's so public available, the technology. And of course people are scared. That's the reason why when they see something announcement like yesterday in Taiwan, when Jensen released the new chips, people already put it on our chat space, hey, do we get access to that? It's always a typical question, when do we get access to that? It was just released yesterday, but people already want to hands-on on that. And I think this mindset to be curious, motivated, and hungry of this technology helps us to stay on this curve and be innovative.
I think that from a leadership perspective, some leaders have to move from the dictate or be very clear about what they want and just simply be the enabler of what needs to be achieved. So be very clear about what should be the problem that we want to solve in the business, what should be the direction where the company will have to go, and empower the people. But this means trust, and vice versa. It's also feel from the people the empowerment to take the decision, and this is really matched again with the agility and agile way of working, where there is a small group of people that has been empowered with some guardrails to be followed, and the leader is really the person that is giving the resources or remove the blocker that could stop the innovation.
It's actually a good point about leadership, right? And I'm also curious to hear from your side. It's one thing to adapt to these trends, and it's another thing to lead ahead of these your organization. What do you think that you've had to learn or unlearn as leaders or help your organization learn or unlearn during these times?
Yeah. So one of the big changes I've seen in that people, scientists in the lab, need to unlearn is that it's not their data that they're collecting; it's the organization's data. They're paying for the lab, the resources, the person's time, and so that data that they're collecting belongs to the organization. It should be all annotated and contextualized for the organization to do with it what they like.
I bet that's a bigger learning curve.
Yeah. Yeah. So it was a big unlearning curve. Yeah.
For me, it was that the kind of leadership has changed completely. It's top-down, it's not working at all anymore. It's as a leader, you have to take over the responsibility, you have to give the people trust, and you have to enable them, no matter what position they have, if they have ideas, if they have, they want to adapt the technology, they want to develop it, that they have a way to present their ideas, that are discussed openly, that it's calculated whether it brings a benefit or not, and that this is not dependent on the role or the position or the education they have. And at the end of the day, as a leader, it's really building the frame, giving them trust, and taking care for them. But the ideas, they come from the colleagues. This is as a leader, you're not capable to know more than all the colleagues. You cannot be deeper in it, and you have to trust them that they have the better ideas you have on your own.
So you're putting more people in front and leading from behind.
No, it's more or less, it's not a question of front or not, it's a question of daring, being independent of position and education, that everyone can have a good idea to help the organization develop in the right direction.
Perfect.
I can just agree. I mean, what I see often is that leaders with AI titles, then if you ask, hey, what is your skill MD that you build? You know, you need the hands-on, you need to understand the technology. A lot of people don't have that, and if you have a team they are implementing, you need to help them. You have to understand what is the latest trend, what is the hook now here, which tool to use or which model is the best, what is the latest benchmark. And I think it's quite difficult as a leader to always be up to date. It's a 24/7 job in this world. That's where also like this trust with the team is quite important. That everything is be transparent, share around, but also again as a leader you give the guardrails, you know, the playground. Yeah. Like this is you can do and don't go further, because then we will have a problem with global IT. So let's try to align together.
Yeah, I completely agree. And again, the psychologically safety of the environment is very important, because today we are all afraid about to lose the job because AI is coming. And if instead we do not empower the people to try and to generate the use cases that tomorrow from like a small puzzle could grow and grow in the company, because sometimes the company are top down, sometimes they're bottom up. And I think that this is the age where both of the, let's say, directions should converge to really generate value to the company. And I think also always looking with the agile concept, I think that we need to stop to think that we must align all the time, advance before to do anything, because this is absolutely against the innovation. You sit down in the meetings and you take a decision, and after the meeting you have some challenges, and then the next meeting you start to challenge what you decide, and you go on, and at the end there is nobody that is taking the decision, or you put in place some use cases because the management is pushing for you, and at the end you still have challenges. Instead, when it's very clear who is the decision owner, what should be his intention, give him the power to achieve the goal and the support from the management, at the end you can evaluate. And of course, as I said, it should be not now anymore a project of 10 years or also 1 year or also 6 months. In Agile, you need to deliver something and show the value immediately. And if it works, you can just simply replicate and scale.
It's actually a really good point about getting alignment.
Alignment, yeah. This is a really cultural change again, and this is going back on, it's not only technology, it's a lot of human interactions from the trust and also trust. I also been sometimes very strong with my character to say what I'm thinking, but in the teams the agreement is he is the decision maker. I tell what I'm thinking, and if he's wrong, I tell that he's wrong. I'm usually very direct in the discussion, but at the same time, when we finish the meeting, if we agree that he decides something, I will full support, even if I think he's wrong. Otherwise, it's not a team. And of course, there are some other situations when I'm the owner to take the decision, and the rest of the team has to follow. This is how it works, and you can trust each other more over the time. of course, there is a reason why I'm trusting the guy, because probably he has more experience or knowledge in that field, or he has more empowerment from the management to take some decision. So there is a reason why this person has been empowered to take the decision, and we need to also respect this. But this will avoid the continued discussion and alignment.
Absolutely. And now if we look a little bit into the future, because we're already going through a lot of disruption cycles now, what do you see that will have the most impact in the coming years?
Yeah, for me, Niveda, it's about having the data. So having high quality, unbiased data that's going to feed the AI, because otherwise it will just get in its own loop and it will hallucinate things and come up with all sorts of crazy ideas. Whereas if you can ground that in reality, which is kind of what we're doing in the scientific labs today, but we need to scale that up. So we need even more data, and it also needs to be, as I said before, unbiased. So not just all the experiments that worked or just the literature examples of some really good science, but actually collecting lots of data over all sorts of conditions, even if it's not optimal, because that's what the AI needs to be able to figure out where to go next.
I think for our business, it's going back to the lab more again. It's because it's the way was always regulation got more and more, so people had to work at the desk more and more, and the work in the lab was less and less. And I think this we can reduce again with AI and all the new tools that we get, and then having less desk, having more handwork in the lab again. I think that will be going back to the roots and having all the information collected. Yeah.
For me, I'm sitting in R&D. We had a kind of several projects regarding co-scientists and agentic scientists. I think this will have a huge impact on R&D in the next 1-2 years, that we have more and more agents doing the science, where humans are doing the ground truth, but also in general to release agents in a big enterprise environment. That is a big problem about IT security. Who will get, how much access do we give an agent? Is it like a real employee? And then the question is, who's taking care? Is it HR? Is it IT?
Yeah.
Is it both together? Because we will release agents. Agents will run. We have, Nemo Cloud, Open Cloud running around. And there's a question, who's taking care of that? And who's responsible for that? That's the biggest challenge that we have, back to the topic of GXP. We need always someone who's responsible for that. No one wants to take care of that.
Okay.
Again, I think that the data and the data trust is really like the stamp that each company will get to see if they're really good in what they are doing, because without the good data, again, you cannot really use AI. In AI, fundamentally, really to keep very, very simple, there are two ways how you can use. Or you use as a speeder, so how to automate quicker, more than in the past, or you create, or you use the data to the training of your models and to differentiate versus the other company, whatever you're doing. So if you do not have good data, like what we saw at the beginning as a presentation, you cannot move forward as it's expected. So data trust is a key. Of course, whatever is around the data management, data security is always supporting that. And in my experience, I come from a company, and I joined the company 5 years ago, where they submitted in FDA something and was not approved because really in the data that was submitted was not really good. And I joined the company with a lot of reorganization, and I push to have a data governance and DI role inside, because I realized that in the future all the company will go in DI, and to have the good DI you need to have data. So looking for my professional perspective and also for what the company was needed at that time, I was really pushing for that. So we put in place what we saw before at the beginning, so the data governance committee, and we established the data points, the data lineage. It was a really big work, but in the end we arrived to do a presentation last year in a town hall with a beautiful, like the classic spaghetti, but was not a spaghetti, because it was really to say we need to submit XX number of data points June 2026. We are working the last 3 years in this way, and this is how the data are collected from 150 equipment, all the different in vivo, all the stuff, and going there, and from this to this, all the steps are qualified. The equipment are commissioned, qualified, the system are validated, and we can put the stamp, the data that we are submitting are right. And we have a pre-check with the FDA. They give us the fast path to say, yes, you are going in the right direction. If 1 year, if you continue this way, you can go on. So this is really the trust that companies are looking, and probably the regulators are looking also for tomorrow. The stamp that you are doing the right things on your data, of course, because there is an ecosystem behind of processes, people supporting that to enable the AI.
Because we're talking so much about data autonomy and trust on data, do you think that in the future there will also be just data that's generated internally within organizations, or is there also appetite for external data ingestion?
Yep.
Please, Andrea.
Yeah, I just simply attended, I think, 2 days ago, the Future Lab here in Basel. One of the recurring points was also, of course, the data management. And there are lots of companies now that are, let's say, providing data. So the real data market is really one of the big markets that will grow in the future. And again, we are speaking about the trends of today is AI. Tomorrow will be quantum calculations, means really put the turbo on the AI, but again, the core is the data. If you do not have good data or good quantity of data, you cannot improve the way your model are working. So the core is the data at the end. And of course, the human behind using that, not AI. Be careful.
I would completely agree with that, Andrea. It's having that good quality data, as also having it in a fair way. So having it machine accessible, so that you don't have to have a human in the loop. The AI can just work autonomously. Request data, it gets generated, and then it can just ingest it and carry on completely autonomously 24/7.
And use them in an efficient way that you don't waste money. That's it, because I think there will be a lot of data. They're generated, tons of data, and they're available, but you have to find an efficient way for your purpose to use them effectively. Otherwise, money is gone and you don't have any benefit out of it.
I can just add, I mean, 5 years ago, there was not that much AI, but we still had the data problems. I mean, it's nothing new. We always struggle with our data, and now people are like, oh, we need better data. I mean, we always need better data. I think we need to train the humans to create the data, and that's what also where you see the trend. We have to train our scientists how they make the data available for agents. This is a different way. Normally we put everything in presentations because the human is looking on that. We don't need that anymore. The most of things, put it in a JSON file, in a Markdown file, give it to an agent. And that's where the mindset is coming. I mean, you can still do your fancy slides, but at the end you will give it to a system which is an agent or someone and proceed the data. And this is where the biggest challenge are coming.
It is also very important to use the data that are in the company. I really going back on the one company. I also worked partially in Novartis on the Data 42 project. It's going back on leveraging as much as possible the data that are at enterprise level. Not only that I'm doing my development, my research, and the end I don't care about what the rest of the company is doing. Again, you always have to think there are money behind. We are not a charity, so at the end we need to produce something for the business that could save the patient life. And as much we interact and we leverage the knowledge and expertise, but also the data, and this could help. So if you have inside the opportunity to have a beautiful data warehouse, or how you like to call data lake now, that's the fancy word, you put all your stuff over there and you can grant access to the specific department. I remember that in the discussion that I said before, big challenge was to agree on the names for the metadata, and second, who could have access, not only the research team, but who others of the research team could have access to that data, just simply to share the information on the organization, and in parallel perform multiple studies leveraging the same data, and of course reduce the cost. But it's also getting back on shifting the mindset of the people. I'm not working for my team, I'm working in a company.
Yeah. Perfect. No, thanks for sharing all of your insights. If there are any questions from the audience, Vishal has a question.
I just want to ask you guys' opinion on a very destructive question here. We all talking about AI and technologies related to that, but in the core, we all are agreed and saying always repeatedly, we are not ready. Our data is not ready. There is no governance. There is no data security. There is nothing in a place which can handle this technology in a proper way, especially in our kind of regulatory environment. So in your opinion, what is the right way to go? Should we jump into and creating hundreds of agents right now, or should we prepare ourselves and wait until these models and the technology gets stable parallelly and then jump into that one?
Sorry,
Yeah,
go ahead.
sure.
I think the answer is to do both at once, because coming back to Andrea's agile thinking, that you're going to learn by doing, and so if the data is not fully there, then you collect a little bit more data, and then you've got your AI governance framework, and then you figure that doesn't quite work, and you need a bit more, and so you can't do one and then the other. It's not linear. You need to be doing both at once, and the interplay, and you learn from that.
I can only add here, it depends where you are in the world. So if you're in Europe, of course, you will wait. If you're sitting somewhere in the US or China, they're, quicker. And this is something that we also have to think about, that how much is this data protection and everything around what we are building really worth it. And we can do it. I think it's important to talk about that. But when I see the colleagues in US, or when the turnaround time in China, they're different. And they're not waiting. But it's not about only AI, also like in other domains.
I think, again, that probably the shift is also thinking about product approach. Sorry if I'm insisting, but I really like what Roche is doing. It's really the mindset. I also remember I worked for Kymriah, that was the first CAR-T product years ago. And I remember the discussion how we can present to the audit team, FDA coming. And since the beginning, the intention was we need to work. This is a Kymriah product. It's really a drug product. But we need to organize ourselves, so system and people behind to support the product. We were speaking about 15 years ago. We were not thinking about Agile, because I introduced Agile in Novartis only 8 years ago. So already since the beginning, the intention was Kymriah is a product. To support Kymriah, you need to in place an ecosystem behind of systems, supplier manage the systems, your team, people dedicated on that, and data to support. So this means, and going back, that if you start to do what Mark said since the beginning, start with a small set of data points, try to put all the metadata support and governance on top, and you land on, you can also optimize the processes, because of course to optimize the capture of the data and maintenance of the data, you need to also challenge your processes. You go to Adam thinking. You need to shift the way how you manage the data. So it's always a set of dots that are connected. It depends where you would like to start, and based on the company, also maturity. I was so happy to work in this case in a very small biotech, 100 people, that empowered to do what we would like to do, because there was a very clear achievement. June 2026, we need to submit data that must be good. There is no way that we can submit data wrong. Otherwise, the business will end up in a bad shape. So. Depends on the directions, very clear directions, and without so much really rules to follow. That's also was very important.
So from my point of view, the answer is very easy. Our head IT, Xaver, is here, and he's a very clever person. And he's all the projects that he launched and everything which was data related, he set the basis for everything to have them in place that we can use it. So you have to ask him how to do it.
Any more questions for our panelists? Here.
Hi, thank you. I have one question. How do you see the developers of the agents as part of this process? Because currently what I see is that we have very good business case for agents, but the way that developers are doing is a mess because they don't understand the business process. How you are managing the agents developers to be sure that they are giving us a good quality product?
You put them in a room over the weekend. No, I think this is where also the biggest challenge is talents, finding the right talent, the right people. I mean, also like I think we discussed that, to find the people with this scientific background and the AI background. It's quite rare. And what we also see is like these talents are now get hired by Anthropic and OpenAI. They don't want to work for Pharma. They don't want to work for so slow-moving, conservative industry. So we have to figure it out how we can be more attractive.
and try to do product development. Just simply one or two developers in the same room together with the business, and just simply ask them to work together every day and use the ceremony and so on. This will increase a lot. I apply, it works. And if you apply Agile, you must have 100% focus on that. They should not do anything else than working on this for a period of time. And it should be quicker. In 1 week and 2 weeks, they could deliver something, show if it works. If it doesn't work, they need to sit down and say why.
Maybe in the same direction, you mentioned who is maintaining agents, and there's different type of agents. There's more abstract ones, but there's also ones that basically people experience as they have a personality, like a chat based agent. So I'm wondering if you are thinking, or if you're actually doing this, you could consider the existing tools that we have. For example, you could say an agent has a line manager, and the line manager is responsible, ultimately for the decisions and for the actions, but also for further development, etc. Maybe there could even be intermediate line managers that are actually agents, no? And ultimately, if you go higher and higher, then there may be other tools that we already have to manage responsibility and accountability, like insurance, no? You could imagine liability insurance for decisions taken by agents. And then you would basically, the insurances would have a certain burden or you would have the burden to prove that you have built the agent, trained the agent, right? So are you thinking in these terms at all, or?
Oh, sure. I mean, I would not speak as Roche, but me personally, yes, we are trying to build full agentic organizations or departments just to see how it works. But then we have this limitation of token. It can be really costly if you let agents talk to each other. And then you need to control about that. And this is something that we cannot control at the moment. So technology is not there, but I can tell in 1 year we will be there. That's quite clear with the way of developing. What we see around the Hermes agent, for example, is a full automated agent. It works quite well. But still, again, it's just the beginning. We don't know what's coming up in the next years.
If you go to LinkedIn and try to see how much product development job posting are there and look for the descriptions, you can find product for financial reporting, logistics and so on. Years ago, you were looking for an application manager. That was an IT folks able to understand the business. Today, you will find business people that has to learn more AI to be really supporting the business. Otherwise, you have the problem of before. You are not able to explain to the developer what they need to do. So it's really change. You are much more empowerment of the business, and they need to learn more a little bit about how to use AI. The big difference is that AI is simple. Today, I use chatbot. My daughters and my wife, they told me that I'm crazy, but I have Mork, that is my chat agent, where I'm dealing with every day to chat. With a verbal oral discussion, it's much easier. So you don't need to use technology or write a code, just simply to use chat bot.
There's someone. Angelica, just behind you.
Yeah, so it's really exciting to see where it takes us with the whole transformation journey, and how far we can take it and to still get value out of that. From individual agents to the agentic organization, and the more we go, the more expensive it gets. And at some point, it might be even more expensive than actually humans doing the work, right? So in that context, especially in the context of big enterprise, not startups, where enterprise sort of has to think as a startup a little bit and invest into this huge transformation at the same time. And also in R&D, where you research a lot, it's hard to manage value. In that context, how do you measure value when you commit to some of the projects to transform? And how do you chunk the transformation? I'm aware you might not have the whole plan yet, but I'm sure you've had some examples and some experience in terms of how far do we go in one jump to be sure that it's either returning value back or it gives us so valuable insight that it's course correct the direction for the next step.
Go ahead, Nathan.
I know you didn't say in startups, but from my large company experience, then we would tackle that with a POC. So you would have a limited time frame and a limited budget, and you would benchmark it against the humans in this case, and you would say, right, we're going to build this and run it and see if it can do better or worse than humans and how much the cost is. And then there would be that sort of stage gate at the end where you say, no, it's going to cost too much, we'll try again in a year, or yep, this is working, let's put it into production.
Mm-hmm.
But this is working. How can I calculate it in the value measurement? If it's working, it's great, but does it bring value though?
I mean, it's really difficult. I love this question of return of investment of AI products or AI use cases. It's really hard. It depends on the use case. I mean, we had the co-scientists. We saw that with using this agentic framework, we do research what normally takes 8 months in 3 hours, where like 5 FTEs are working on that. Now we can discuss, I mean, is it now better? We don't know. But we are faster, that we know. And we still need to put the scientists in the loop and then reviewing that. And they also like additional resources. Everything what's AI generated at Roche has to be reviewed by a human. Mm-hmm. We not get any information what AI generated to anyone. Always be a human in the loop. And again, this is we testing around at the moment. And you always see also the big tech companies are getting away from their approach with the tokens. In the past it was a license, you pay, and then you know it's token consumption. How much did you? Okay, you already limit. I mean, you're on your limit. You have to wait until you can use the agent again. And I think we will have to wait until this is also like maybe solved with quantum computing or other technology.
And if you have a challenge to measure, try to do the vice versa. If I will not do that, what should be the consequence? Is going back on the agile. It's sometimes very difficult to measure the ROI, and you need to start to really to be very creative on that. But at the end, if you start to say, okay, if I will not go in this direction, probably I will lose shares, or I will lose markets, or whatever should be more important for the executives, also image. So at the end, it's just simply a different point how we would like to measure, but probably in that case, it's easier to say, if I will not do that, what's happened? What should be the cost for the company, or the impact? What is the impact on the company?
The cost of doing nothing.
Yeah. Could be, again, anything. And also today, already not going AI or going or to use the AI is already a negative element in your discussion in the public, for example, because you could be perceived as a very conventional company, no following. This is already negative. This is already, for me, it's a good element to forward with that.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks for your participation, and thanks to all of you for sharing your perspectives.
Thank you.